Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, or Sly Raccoon in other countries, as apparently Cooper is a naughty word in some places, is a linear 3D platformer released on the PlayStation 2 in 2002. And unlike games like Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter, I didn't play this game when I was a kid. I saw commercials all the time for it and was interested in raccoons since they're pretty sick.
10 reasons raccoons are the best pets. Reason 1, he protect but he also attack. Reason 2, they can regenerate limbs. If you need to whip up a quick dinner, you can just chop off a raccoon's leg. Reason 3, they're obedient. You want someone dead, your raccoon will kill them James Bond style, no questions asked. Reason 4, raccoon piss cures cancer. Reason 5, they're really good at video games. If you suck dick at CSGO, a raccoon will carry your fat ass, no problem.
But I never really remembered the name of the game when Christmas came around, as I only used to get games at around Christmas time when I was a little kid, or on my birthday, or whenever my grandparents felt compelled to get something for me. But nonetheless, the years went on and I completely forgot about Sly Cooper, up until Infamous 2, the first game of Sucker Punch Productions that I had played at the time. I kept seeing mentions online about their PS2 games, something about a raccoon, a hippo, and a turtle, and got curious since I don't remember hearing about this platforming game myself. Only to then do some research on my own online, talking to friends, and I saw a commercial that triggered something within me. Something that reminded me of what I wanted to play as a little kid. Sadly, since I didn't own a PS2 anymore, I couldn't buy a physical copy of the PS2 games, and at the time, the HD collection was the only thing available. Problem was, I was broke. I was just a little kid. I couldn't afford it, and by the time that Christmas came around, I forgot about it once more, getting my parents to buy me the next COD title or whatever my friends were playing at the time. I didn't get to play Sly until I decided to give PlayStation Now a try, and saw that the Sly Cooper HD collection was on there and said now is the chance. Before the PS Now trial ends, I shall play the goddamn raccoon platforming game. And holy hell, did I ever play it. But first, let's discuss the method that I used to play Sly Cooper. PlayStation Now. A good service at the time, honestly. I don't know about it now, but even without a wired connection, my console managed to stream the game consistently throughout, with minor connection hiccups here and there. And you would think that the added input lag would have somehow made the game harder to play and beat, since, especially in the case of Miss Ruby's boss fight being timing based, wasn't too much of a pain to get used to. I do believe, however, that not all games on PS Now should be streamed, since the reason that the Sly Cooper collection managed to be so stable to begin with without any input latency issues is just due to the fact that the game runs at a consistent 60 FPS, thus making the latency as small as it is something that you get used to rather quickly. Unlike other games in the catalog that are 30 FPS and lower, Sly Cooper still manages to feel responsive even though it has its input latency issues at times. But throughout the course of this video series, I'm playing the actual Sly Cooper collection developed by Sanzaro Games and released in November of 2010. As a proof of concept that Sony wanted to test the waters to see how well Sanzaro Games worked with the Sly Cooper franchise. And honestly, while I haven't played Sly 3 in the collection yet, Sly 1 and 2 translated over to the collection certainly better than what Ratchet got on PS3, and most certainly better than the fate Jak and Daxter were settled with on PS4. I'm sad now. Sony has a terrible reputation when maintaining its old games. Like, it's honestly kind of unfair and sad to see. But anyways, all the games that are going to be reviewed from this series, like I said before, are going to be from this collection, and not the PS2 originals, because while I do own the PS2 original games, I do not own the original hardware or gear needed to record them in the first place, so HD remaster on the PS3 it is, and well, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus developed by Sucker Punch Productions, who are best known for developing the Ghost of Tsushima and Infamous franchises. Their first game, Rocket Robot on Wheels, is an open hub-esque 3D platformer akin to Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie, first released on the N64 in November 1999. And the game released to really great reviews, scoring 8s and 9s out of 10s all over the place, and it's a game that I didn't really play until I needed to get some footage for this video, and it's honestly really creative. I would really want to go back to this game in order to give it a fair shot. But when the time came to make a new game, they abandoned the little robot on wheels and moved on to the now well known and loved Sly Cooper. And unlike Ratchet & Clank and Jak and Daxter, they took a more story-focused approach to their game. And while sure, Jak and Daxter had a story, and Ratchet & Clank has its story with heavy themes of consumerism to tie it all together, Sly Cooper took a different, more traditionally grounded approach. Well, as grounded as you can be when your main lead is a raccoon, but you know. By that I mean that the characters are more fleshed out, have clearer character arcs and motivations that push them forward throughout the journey. And while Ratchet & Clank had this in stride too, I feel like Sly's more grounded approach made it easier to emphasize, as multiple characters continue to weigh in on Sly's actions and determinations. His friends following him to a T but not afraid to express their doubts and worries. The game's villains using this to great effect as Sly, a thief, is compared to the likes of them and their actions.
You are a thief, just like me.
No, that's only half right. I am a thief from a long line of master thieves, while you're just a frustrated firework artist turned homicidal pyromaniac.
Insolent child. You shall pay dearly for your disrespect.
Which truly makes Sly shine on his own, as he pushes back the notions of being in the same league as the villains. Like, there's a reason why Sly won the Best New Character award in 2003. But Sly's show isn't one for him to run alone, as his gang of thieves also includes the likes of Bentley the Turtle, the brains of the operation, whose shyness and awareness grows on you as the game goes on. We also got Murray the Hippo, the driver of the van and full-time burden, whose innocence and determination eventually leads them to have its own character arc throughout the series. And Carmelita Montoya Fox, who's very popular online, but not to discredit the character arc that she goes through throughout the game, and whose first interaction with Sly speaks volumes as to how far those two have gone throughout the years, both in cop chases and romantically as well. Sly's kind of a flirt, you know what I mean? Visually, however, the game's a marvel, even better than Ratchet & Clank, and especially better than Jak and Daxter, except for the character models? I don't know. Sly is the one who stands out for me the most, since when I look at him, I kinda gotta do a double take because he looks off to me. He doesn't look quite right. He doesn't look like, I don't know, there's just a certain quality to Sly that is lacking somewhere. I think it's due to his animations and how spatic they are, especially when he's talking, which some of the other characters do have, but Sly's constant lip flapping when he's talking makes it look, it's odd. It doesn't comes off as appealing and well animated as Jak and Daxter, for example, or even Ratchet and Clank, which, given the amount of dialogue in this game in comparison to those two games, I think it's a good trade-off, but is one that is absolutely noticeable, especially when you play those two games back to back. But the environmental detail, however, is top tier shit. There's a lot of artistry on display in this game. Like, it's something that you don't even see in the likes of Jak and Daxter and even Ratchet and Clank, because while they do have their own artistry, like style, it doesn't come off as well as it does in Sly Cooper, because everything is designed in a certain way and everything is meant to look a certain way, so the character stands out from the background consistently, so you don't lose track of Sly while he's on his adventure. Like, Sly's color scheme doesn't get repeated throughout the course of the entire fucking game, and there's a reason for that, and it's to make Sly stand out from the background. Like, there's clear intent when it comes to making him readable, and it is something that is so simple and so easily missable, and it's something that modern games nowadays fail to execute, because modern games nowadays do not take this into account and just leave it to the whims of the engine, making things blend together so much so that in the case of, let's say, Halo Infinite, if you didn't have the red outlines to the characters, they would just blend into the background, and it's frustrating because it didn't used to be this way. Like, there's a reason why the previous Spartan color scheme was red versus blue, as those colors are not replicated anywhere in those maps, which helped them stand out, because in a multiplayer game, the last thing that you want to do is struggle to see who you're shooting at, which is something that, let's say, Battlefield and Call of Duty fail to do, as they strive more for realism without taking into account what makes the characters pop out and what makes it easier for the player to analyze and thus engage with. This is something that the PS2 era of games and even the PS1 era of games like always took into account, because it is extremely frustrating. But I'll talk more about the artistry in itself in the sequel, because I feel that the sequel of Sly Cooper does way more with this than the first game, especially when it comes to its cutscenes. Because while the cutscenes in Sly Cooper are not bad, going more for a comic book aesthetic, I feel like the characters do not really stand out a lot from the background, and it creates a visual mess when it comes to like differentiating the characters from the backgrounds, because it has a lot of the same consistency, and it's something that the sequel fixes a lot. And it's something that, like, once you look at the sequel's cutscenes in comparison to the first one, it is something that when you notice, it's something that you cannot unnotice, if you know what I mean. We'll talk about it more in the sequel. I'm getting way ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Gameplay wise, however, I believe this is the most straightforward out of the big three, since Ratchet did tackle a linear branching level designs with experimental weapons combat to great success even nowadays, and Jack tackled a seamless open world collectathon gameplay. The gameplay in Sly Cooper and Thievius Raccoonus could be best described as Crash 3 with stealth elements, as the levels are really linear with no breakaways, and small mini games on the side to break away from the platforming. And while not bad, since the game is extremely good, it doesn't have an innovative hook to make its players interested beyond its characters, since at the time of its release, the market for 3D platformers was already saturated with mascot platformers trying to achieve the same things as Sly Cooper. And while still big in its own right, I believe that's why the first game and the franchise overall didn't do as good as Ratchet and Jack, since first impressions are key, and with an oversaturated market, by the time that the sequel got announced, some people just didn't care. But that's what we'll be talking about next time. Sly Cooper 2, Band of Thieves. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you all next time.